Dutchie on the left hand side.
In 1982, 5 schoolboys from Birmingham, England, topped the charts around the world with their hit song Pass the Dutchie. It reached #1 in the UK and over a dozen countries around the world and made the top 10 in the US. It sold 5 million copies worldwide. But this signature song isn't just a cover of one song, it's actually a few songs combined. Musical Youth were formed in 1979 in Birmingham, UK. Initially, the group consisted of 2 sets of brothers whose parents had moved to the UK from Jamaica. Patrick Waite and his brother Freddie Jr., and Kelvin and Michael Grant. When George Grant realised his 2 sons had some musical talent, he contacted his old friend from Jamaica, Fred Waite Sr. He'd been a member of the successful Jamaican vocal group The Techniques, known for their hit song Queen Majesty.
Queen Majesty.
Freddie Waite Sr. told George Grant his own sons had began playing music too, and perhaps the boys should all jam together. They began practicing together whenever they had the chance at a community centre in Saltley, about a mile away from where they lived. The original lineup was Freddie Waite Jr. on drums, Patrick Waite on bass, Michael Grant on keyboards, Kelvin Grant on guitar, and Freddie Waite Sr. was the lead singer. They began playing at venues around Birmingham and the Midlands, often in places the 4 boys weren't even old enough to legally enter as customers.
We would play all the local pubs. We were too young to actually go inside the pub lounge itself, but they didn't mind us going on stage and coming off stage. This went on for at least a couple of years, and that's when we got introduced to Tony Owens.
Tony Owens was also a Jamaican that had moved to England and resettled in Birmingham. He had connections in the music scene in the area and offered to get them some gigs at bigger venues. As the band was mostly children, those venues took a little persuading.
Some of the promoters were saying to me, Tony, these are kids, and this is a nightclub, right? So, so I said, look, I'll come and play for you free. If the public doesn't like them, you don't have to pay me anything. But each time they blow them away.
In 1981, after a run of successful gigs, they decided it was time to record their own song. With the help of Tony Owens and the Saltley Music Workshop at the community centre, they recorded 2 songs written by Freddie Sr., one called Political and the other called Generals.
All you generals, all you field marshals, all you captains.
Although the boys were enthusiastic about recording for the first time, they didn't really feel the song represented them.
To me, might as well have been in, I don't know, Japanese. I didn't even know what he was singing about or what the complaints were about. I wanted to get up in the morning, kick a ball around, go to school, eat, go back to bed.
Nevertheless, the song got the attention of Radio 1 DJ John Peel. The legendary radio host was famous for ignoring the charts and playlists, instead choosing to just play what he liked. This often meant unearthing new bands, many of whom were unsigned and unknown. As a result, he often ended up either breaking the acts into the mainstream or, at worst, creating one-hit wonders. John Peel regularly played the band's single on his show, and eventually invited the group to record a 4-track live session in the BBC studios. On the 22nd of April 1981, the session recorded for John Peel was aired on BBC Radio 1.
Stop all distracting at the music shop.
We have to do it at the musical workshop. We have to do it at the musical workshop.
Not long after the session was broadcast, the band played a gig in a pub in Coventry called the General Wolf. And although they were playing to a packed house as usual, there was one person in the audience that was going to change their lives forever.
We get to a pub called the General Wolf in Coventry. And then that particular night, Charlie Eyre was there. He was part of a company called A&M at the time. And he liked what he heard. And he said, you know what, I really like what I'm hearing. But I think you guys needed a younger singer.
Following his advice, they set up auditions hoping to attract the best young singers from the area and then pick the best. The first person at the audition was Dennis Seaton.
Opened the doors and in strolls Dennis. And we play a couple of songs and he sings. And he was okay, fine, he was another singer. We then say, okay, fine, see you later. Next. And that was it.
Oh, wow.
No one else turned up. So when I joined the band, I had to go to 7-day-a-week rehearsals because they had to get me up to speed.
With the help of Charlie Air, Musical Youth signed a deal with MCA Records and moved on to the next task, picking a song to be their first single. Charlie arranged to attend one of the band's rehearsals in Birmingham with the hope of hearing some of the new songs they'd been writing. When he arrived, they were actually playing through one of the covers from their live set, a song by Jamaican group Mighty Diamonds called Pass the Catchy. He loved the song and insisted they record it as their first single. It was Tony Owens, who was now managing the group, that had to explain to him that a catchy was a type of pipe used to smoke weed. So obviously if the 5 schoolboys were to record the song, they would have to change the words. The record executive began throwing out suggestions of other things they could sing about instead. Pass the Mars bar, pass the Smarties, and various other childish references to toys and sweets. Worried that they might be reduced into nothing more than a novelty act, the band unanimously rejected all of the suggestions.
Perish the thought to consider ourselves a novelty act. We felt we were credible. We were really dedicated musicians, and it was blood, sweat and tears.
Owens told him to leave it with them. They'd come up with something.
After that, I went home, tired and hungry and everything. When I stepped through the door, I said to my wife, have you got anything to eat? She said, look in the Dutchie.
Dutchie is the slang term for a large cast iron cooking pot, known as a Dutch pot or Dutch oven. Despite the name, it's actually an English invention from the 18th century. It's named after the process used to cast the iron, known as the Dutch process, rather than the country of origin. This pot is used in Jamaica to cook soups, stews, curries, and the national dish of rice and peas.
So I said, look in the Dutchie.
Dutchie, yeah, pass the Dutchie. And I said, yeah, we could call it, instead of singing, how does it feel when you got no herb? We could sing, how does it feel when you got no food?
Other references to ganja in the song are changed to references for food, and the song's meaning changed from being about smoking weed to being about the struggles of poverty. As a side note, the music for the Mighty Diamonds song is based on the 1968 song Full Up, specifically Leroy Sybil's bass line. And although he never received any money for either Pass the Catchy or Pass the Dutchie, he still seems quite good-humoured about the whole situation.
I never make much money from this one, but I still feel good. Every time I sound a string of Leroy Sybil sing, never heard.
In addition to the lyrics adapted from the Mighty Diamonds song, parts of the song Gimme the Music by Hugh Brown were also used in Pass the Dutchie, and the Hugh Brown song also uses Leroy Sybil's bass line.
Give me the music, make me jump and dance. Give me the music, make me rock in the dance.
Give me the music, make me jump and dance.
It a go done.
Give me the music, make me rock in the dance.
Listen to the drum and me say listen to the bass. When I tell you this, I wanna make you wind up your waist.
Listen to the drum and me say listen to the bass. Give me little music, make me wind up me waist.
And finally, the intro of Pass the Dutchie is from U-Roy's Rule the Nation.
This station rules the nation with version.
This generation rules the nation with version.
During the summer holidays of 1982, the band spent a week in London recording the song and filming a music video, directed by Don Letts.
I wanted to show these kids as a new face and the new identity of England. So I took the Houses of Parliament and set the scene in front of that with the musical youth playing their instruments with these red, gold and green speakers. This was the new face of Britain. This generation rules the nation.
The single was released in September of '82, and although it failed to make the top 40 initially, it slowly kept climbing the charts. On the 19th of September 1982, it reached number 26. They'd now broken the top 40. This meant they would be called to perform the song on the BBC TV chart music show, Top of the Pops. During its peak in the 70s and 80s, it wasn't unusual for Top of the Pops to get 10 million plus viewers. That's more than 1/6 of the country's entire population at the time.
Musical youth, flush it!
This generation rules the nation.
After the Top of the Pops performance, sales of the song skyrocketed, and the song hit number 1 on October 2nd, 1982, where it stayed for 3 weeks.
The following week, we get into the studio. 10:30 in the morning, we get a call. Charlie Air, listen guys, you're number 1.
No, we're not. You are. Just listen to the charts at 1 o'clock.
The pop chart has a new #1 this week. The record Pass the Dutchie by Musical Youth.
We just looked at each other and our eyes, and we just, wow. And I remember the hairs standing up on the back of my neck. And it was like just pandemonium, just pandemonium.
Here we are, 5 kids from Birmingham, at #1 in the UK charts. And we were getting telegraphs from everybody and everywhere, man. It was brilliant.
It took the colossal 1980s hit Do You Really Want to Hurt Me by Culture Club to eventually knock it off the top spot. Coincidentally, the video for the Culture Club song also features Boy George in a court scene, and the song has a vaguely Caribbean vibe to it. The single went to #1 in numerous countries around the world and made the Billboard Top 10 in the USA. The video for Pass the Dutchie aired on MTV in the summer of 1982, nearly 6 months before Michael Jackson's Billie Jean, which is often touted as the first video by a black artist to appear on the channel.
Up to this point, MTV weren't really showing any black videos, but because these dudes were under 5 foot and spoke in funny accents, they were deemed as non-threatening.
3 more singles were released, with 2 of them making the top 40. And then an album, The Youth of Today, was released. This made the top 40 album charts in both the USA and the UK, where it sold 100,000 copies and was certified gold. A second album was released called Different Style, but apparently the style was too different, and after poor sales they were dropped by the label. By 1984 the group had split up and the members all went their separate ways. Although their career was short-lived, they still managed to sell over 5 million records worldwide, and turned the cover of a fairly obscure reggae song into a worldwide smash hit, one of the most catchy and memorable signature songs. Recently, the song enjoyed a resurgence when it was used in the hit Netflix TV show, Stranger Things.
Yo, my dude, any luck?
Some members of the band reunited in 2022 to perform at the closing ceremony of the Commonwealth Games that was held in their hometown of Birmingham.
Pass the Dutchie on the left-hand side. Pass the Dutchie on the left-hand side. It have a bunch.
The events that happened between the band breaking up in 1984 and that performance at the Commonwealth Games are both shocking and heartbreaking, and something I'll be covering in detail in the near future. So please subscribe to the channel to get a notification when that and other new videos are online. And as always, don't forget to leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. And if you want to support the channel, there's a few ways you can do that. You can use the thanks button under each video to send a tip, or grab something from the merch shelf or store tab. There's t-shirts, hoodies, tote bags and cushions, all in a variety of colours and sizes. All profits go towards making new content and running this channel.